What up, y'all? We back again, rocking out with another episode. Today we're gonna touch on the Jon Gruden situation, which I'm not too happy about, but I got a lot of thoughts on it. I'm not a fan of people getting fired for pillow talk. And I know guys will say, well, that was in the email. That's still a private conversation between two people where his privacy was invaded. And on top of that, they leaked the emails to get him fired. They didn't just say, here you go. We're going to open up the file and give you all 650,000 emails that they got. No, that's not what they did. They said, we're just going to give you the chain of emails between Jon Gruden. And I think then he was the president of the Washington Redskins at the time. Now it's the Washington football team, Bruce Allen. And it kind of reminds me almost of the Donald Sterling situation, where they just took the Clippers from him. And I know it's people who enjoy it and well, he was racist. That's fine. But he was saying what he was saying behind closed doors. And again, when you allow the Gynocracy and the movements that they are controlling at this point to continue to set precedents where you don't even have privacy in your own home, even at that point, they want your job. You're going to be in a world where no matter what you say, it's going to be lights out, party over. There is no forgiveness when you're dealing with them. None at all. So we'll start back when the article first broke last Friday. And this comes from Andrew Beaton from the Wall Street Journal. Now, when it broke last Friday, I'm not super sensitive about certain things. So I won't say I found it comical, but I also didn't find it to be racist either. So it says on July 21st, 2011, there you go, the NFL and its players were working to resolve a lockout that threatened the upcoming season. That day, the league's owners voted to ratify a new collective bargaining agreement, but the players opted not to vote on it immediately, citing outstanding issues that the union was fighting to resolve. Now, on that very same day, Jon Gruden wrote an email, sent the email about DeMaurice Smith, which is the executive director of the NFLPA. Gruden's email described Smith with a racist trope common in anti-black imagery. DeMaurice Smith has lips the size of Michelin tires. He wrote in the email reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. Now, DeMaurice Smith, the man does have big ears. I've heard white people call white people with big ears Dumbo. Has lips the size of Michelin tires. His lips are big. At this point, white women, hell, it's white men now getting lip injections to have big lips. So, again, I can't take that as a racist trope. Now, was it insensitive? Between those two, no. Because I would have probably cracked the joke also if I was upset at him. But just in the privacy of me communicating with somebody. If I'm texting somebody and I'm, hey, dumb Boris this, dumb Boris that, lips the size of Michelin tires, It's actually comical. It is funny. And I would have laughed at it. And if me and him were interacting in this email, I wouldn't have taken that as a racist trope. Now, if he would have said big monkey lips, then I understand. Because then I can say, okay, yeah, that's fine. I get it. But now, at this point, the article states Gruden is currently the head coach of the Raiders. We know that that is no longer the case. He resigned. Now, in an interview, Gruden said he can't specifically recall writing the email, but apologized for using that language. I'm really sorry, he said. The NFL is reviewing Gruden's status with the Raiders for potential discipline. A person familiar with the matter said. Now, what the NFL was hoping was that Mark Davis was going to fire Jon Gruden. And we'll get into why they wanted him fired. But they thought he would fire Jon Gruden, do the dirty work, and this could all go away. But of course, Jon Gruden signed, what was it, like a 10-year, $100 and something million contract. Nobody's just getting ready to give you the rest. I think he's been coaching now. This is the third or fourth? I think it's the fourth year. So I'm not going to give you $65 million to just walk away. Well, $60+ million to just walk away. And plus, Jon Gruden and the owner are good, close friends. And I think they live right next to each other. So Gruden said he had been angry at the time because of the lockout and didn't trust the direction of the players led by Smith were going in the negotiations. He said he has been in the past referred to people he believes to be lying as rubber lips and that he took it too far. Now, again, did he say rubber lips? No, he said Michelin tire lips. Now, could he have been, is he lying there? Probably so. At that point, he's on the defensive. He knows he's in trouble. So now he's trying to weasel his way out. And, Keyshawn Johnson, he, to his credit, has always said Jon Gruden is a used car salesman. But I'll also tell you this. Keyshawn has never called him a racist. None of his black players have ever called him a racist. Now, they've said he's a snake. It's not to be trusted. Never called him a racist. So, I was upset. Gruden said I used a horrible way of explaining it. I don't think he's dumb. I don't think he's a liar. Gruden said, I don't have a racial bone in my body, and I've proven that for 58 years. Now, to some degree, we all have a racial bone in our body or a bigoted bone in our body. That's just a prejudiced bone in our body. That's just the way we're wired as human beings. Sorry. So, do I buy that? No, I don't buy that. Does he think he's dumb? Probably does. I mean, there's a lot of reporters and people close to the NFL who thinks DeMaurice Smith is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But again, he's not allowed to say what he's feeling now. Why? Because he understands where he's at. He understands the optics of it all. As a white man, if I speak ill of a black man at this point in time, it's going to be viewed as nothing but racist. There can never be any facts, be it said from a white person to a black person, without black people saying that was racist. That's just the way we've been wired. And a lot of that comes from growing up under the Gynocracy. Because growing up under the Gynocracy, you taught what? That everybody must like you. Everybody needs to be your friend. That's how women operate. 98 out of 100 people could tell a woman she's beautiful. She will only focus and give her energy to the two people who said, you all right. She want to convince them now. Not worried about the other 98. And that's how it is growing up in the Gynocracy. You've been raised now to every time somebody says something, everything is about your feelings. My feelings are hurt. As black men growing up in this culture and in this country, we don't have the time to worry about who likes us and who doesn't. We way too far behind the eight ball to worry about that on a day-to-day basis. We get up understanding already. We can't really trust nobody. We live under the DTA rules, basically. Don't trust anybody. Now, in a statement to the Wall Street Journal, DeMaurice Smith said Gruden's comments reflect the difficult reality black people continue to face as they advance their careers. Him thinking you dumb don't have anything really to do with any of that. But again, like I keep telling you, anytime a white person says anything about a black person, it's racist. A white person could tell a black person he's lazy. Oh, you think all niggas is lazy. That's what they're going to tell you. Now, that same black person's mother could tell him he's lazy, or his best friend could tell him he's lazy, and he's going to say what? Just doing it out of love. Or they picking on me. See, they can't call the statement racist when it's coming from somebody that's of their own skin color. So then at that point, then they go into, you putting me down. That's where the fat shaming and stuff has come from. So see, we can't say it's racist now because it's black men saying it, or it's other black women calling black women fat. So now we can't call it racist. So what do we create? Fat shaming. And we create all of these different words every time somebody doesn't like us. Oh, he's a homophobe. He's a transphobe. He's a racist. It's all of these phobes and isms and all these things going on. Why? Because somebody doesn't agree with something you're doing. That's just it. And that's how sick the world is that we live in. This is not the first racist comment that I've heard, and it probably will not be the last. This is a thick-skinned job for someone with dark skin, just like it always has been for many people who look like me and work in corporate America, Smith said. You know, people are sometimes saying things behind your back that are racist, just like you see people talk and write about you using thinly coded and racist language. Now, there are black people who have stated that they don't think he's the sharpest knife in the drawer. But see, when black people say it, then you get you a coon and Uncle Tom. It can never really just be, hey, yo, dog, you really not too good at your job. See, that's another thing that has happened growing up in the Gynocracy. Every time you don't like something, we are now at a point in the world where it's what? You hate. Yeah, I don't really like that outfit you got. Oh, you just hate. Hey, you really not too good at your job. Oh, you just hate. Everything is hating when you tell somebody you don't like something. Instead of, sometimes it really is just the truth. And it just is what it is. Racism like this comes from the fact that I'm at the same tables as they are, and they don't think someone who looks like me belongs, Smith said. I'm sorry my family has to see something like this, but I would rather they know I will not let it define me. Now, we could agree with this, but with that being said, we would also have to get into some of the other statements that was in that letter. So they also go on to say, over the past few months, the NFL said senior NFL executives reviewed more than 650,000 emails, including this one at Roger Goodell's direction. Earlier this week, the executives presented a summary of that review to Goodell. The league added that it is sharing emails pertaining to Gruden with the Raiders. So, Now, what they tried to do earlier, even though they had them all and everything that they dropped Monday, they could have dropped it all that day, but they didn't want to drop it all that day because they didn't want you to really know why he was forced to resign. So what they did was they dropped the black one. They tried to create enough of a windstorm and a firestorm where it was, hey guys, it's a white guy degrading a black man again. And you know the woke warriors, they're going to jump up the Jamel Hills. You're going to have Randy Moss on TV crying and acting a fool. And you get all the other black people crying and acting a fool. So they're going to cry, act a fool, and you hope it's enough media attention that it turns into a wildfire. And it gets hot enough where it either forces the Raiders to fire him or forces him to resign. Well, that didn't happen because Jon Gruden basically told them, F you, and I'm going to coach Sunday, which he did, and he lost to my Bears Sunday. But he went and coached that game Sunday. He wasn't leaving. And they wasn't really calling for him to really be fired Sunday either. But I'm going to tell you why. So now we get to Monday night. I'm laying in the bed. I'm watching football, watching Monday Night Football. The game really had just started. And then these emails was dropped. And since I subscribe to the New York Times, I subscribe to a lot of papers at this point. I'm always looking for stories, ideas, things that's going on. I'm always looking for content. But this story drops, and I'm reading it, and it's just like, he really was going crazy. But I just glanced, and then I saw 10 minutes later, Jon Gruden has resigned. So 10 minutes after the New York Times released this article, then he got out of there. And at that point, I said, all right, let me go back in and really read what was in there. So the New York Times said they found that Gruden had casually and frequently unleashed misogynistic and homophobic language over several years to denigrate people around the game and to mock some of the league's momentous changes. He denounced the emergence of women as referees, the drafting of a gay player, and the tolerance of players protesting during the playing of the national anthem, according to emails reviewed by the Times. Now, we already know he wasn't forced to resign, or the NFL didn't put any heat on him about his tolerance of players protesting because the league wasn't on board. They agreed with Jon Gruden here. He didn't want them protesting. They didn't want them protesting. I didn't feel like they should have been protesting. You don't do that on company time. The NFL is being paid by the military to show the national anthem being sung. That's a business venture at this point. You don't do that on company time. If you want to protest that, you do that on your own time. Now, again, if it was me and I was in the NFL, I just wouldn't have broadcasted it. But again, you're in a contract with the military, so you don't have a choice at this point. It's either that or get the money back. Me personally, I probably would have given the money back. I would have just told them this is not good for business. And this is too divisive right now. If we keep doing this and keep showing this at the beginning of games, it's going to cause a shitstorm, which it did. It made you guys think St. Colin was some type of martyr, and he started comparing him to Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X, and all type of weird stuff was going on with that. But we'll deal with him another day. Gruden's messages were sent to Bruce Allen, the former president of the Washington football team, and others while he was working for ESPN as a color analyst during Monday Night Football. In the emails, Gruden called the league's commissioner, Roger Goodell, a faggot. At that point, when that word is used, good night. If they see that word, party's over. Now, is Roger Goodell gay? I don't know. If he's not, even though you're using the slur, you're not using the slur to somebody who's gay. It would be the equivalence of a black person calling another black person a nigger, or a white person calling another white person a nigger. It doesn't apply at that point. So you really can't say he was being racist with that. You can't say he was being homophobic with that statement. But you have to understand, when Goodell looks at that and sees Gruden says that about him, you have to know these emails are now going to see the light of day. Because you also have to ask yourself, if he felt comfortable through years sending this to Bruce Allen, and this was going on for 7 years, you have to think there was some responses from Bruce Allen back to him. There had to be some back and forth dialogue for him to feel comfortable coming to him using that type of language. Had Bruce Allen shut it down from the jump, there would be no need for Jon Gruden to respond that way, because he would understand, hey, yo, I crossed the line with him that way, so either I won't even text him like this about this subject, or I'll text him using different vernacular. So we know these conversations were two ways. This wasn't just a one-way street of him unloading every time he wanted to go on one of these rants. But again, his emails weren't leaked, just Jon Gruden's. So you have to understand then what? This is a hit job. Somebody wanted his job now. What was the best way to get his job? Because black people, we couldn't get him on a racist thing. He thought they would be able to fire him. But what you have to understand is, like I've told you before, a black man's life has no value unless he is what? Murdered by a white man or murdered by a cop. Any of these other things, you just really ain't going to get the groundswell of support from the people to kind of get a firing to happen. Not in this day and age. So what did they go to next? They know that if they need you out, all they then have to do is say what? You was misogynistic, you're a homophobe, and you've crossed the feminist movement. Once you've done those things, your ass is out, man. Party over. Good night. I ring. So, Andy called Roger Goodell a clueless anti-football pussy. So, with that language being said, we understand what? This ain't about color with Jon Gruden. This ain't about color at all. Everybody is getting it. So we know he's not a racist then. This is equal opportunity. And said that Goodell should have not pressured Jeff Fisher, then the coach of the Rams, to draft queers, a reference to Michael Sam, a gay player chosen by the team in 2014. Did the NFL do that? They sure did. How do I know that? Because Michael Sam was terrible at football. Wasn't good at all. But of course, it had become so big. The LGBTQ movement had this groundswell of support, and they was rising through the ranks. He became the face of that movement. So what did they do? Hey, it's a 6th round. Ain't nobody picked him yet. Somebody needs to pick him. Hey, somebody needs to pick him. Why? And this is what I'm talking about again. They don't want equality of opportunity. They want equality of outcome. See, they don't care that he was shitty at football and he took somebody's draft spot who was more worthy. All they cared was what? We got it. See, this is why I keep telling you this. Let me not curse. This ain't about equality. This is all about supremacy from them. See, they don't care how they get the job. They don't care if they earn it. They just want it. And see, I have a huge problem with that when I'm dealing with them. So, in numerous emails during a seven-year period ending in early 2018, Gruden criticized Goodell and the league for trying to reduce concussions and said that Eric Reid, a player who had demonstrated during the playing of the national anthem, should be fired. Now, does Gruden have a point about the NFL reducing concussions? Sure he does. To me, you know what you're signing up for. It's a collision sport. There's no way to legislate CTE out of the game of football. No way but to stop tackle football. And for a guy like Jon Gruden, you have to understand he's going to be pissed. Like I said, it's not the football I grew up watching. That much I can say. I enjoy the woo hits, the decleters. I like seeing people get their heads knocked off. I like seeing people lay completely out flat. That's the football I grew up watching. That's the football I grew up playing. This is now effeminate football. Now, again, who's pushed for this? The mothers down in the youth league. I'm not going to let my children play. So they understand if we don't start catering to these mothers, and we all understand what mothers they're catering to. This is not a white sport. So they're catering to who? Black mothers. Single black mothers. We don't start catering to them. Maybe they'll put their children in baseball or basketball. And the bottom line may be affected 20 years down the line. So let's start legislating a lot of this out of the game. So, should Eric Reid have been fired? Like I said, I'm not a fan of what him and Cap did. I don't think you do that on company time. I think if you want to take a stand, you figure out a different way to do that. But, you know, that situation has come and gone, so it is what it is. In several instances, Gruden used a homophobic slur to refer to Goodell. Take this gum out of my mouth. Used a homophobic slur to refer to Goodell in offensive language to describe some NFL owners, coaches, and journalists who cover the league. So again, we ain't got no black owners. So if he used homophobic slurs to refer to Goodell in offensive language to describe some NFL owners, coaches, and journalists, there's some black journalists, but ain't too many black coaches, no black owners. But this is what they was trying to paint him as. At first, we're going to paint him as what? A racist. We couldn't get him out of here. So now you're a homophobe. And they tried to do a great job of doing that. You had DeMaurice Smith playing the game right with the NFL. Hey, man, this is what they do to black people when you're sitting at the table. Hey, man, he was doing this to the people writing your checks. Had nothing really to do with you. You was just in a line of fire. Although not with the team at that time, Gruden was still influential in the league, which is another reason I have a problem with this. He didn't do this under the guise of working for the Raiders at that point. He wasn't an NFL employee, he worked for ESPN. Why are you forcing him to quit his NFL job for something that happened prior coming back to the NFL to be a head coach? Now, if you caught him doing it while he was working for the Raiders, that's a different conversation. That's a different conversation altogether. But he didn't violate the NFL code of conduct at that point because he wasn't working for you. But what you've done is what? You fired him for saying things when he wasn't employed by you. And you fired him for saying things to somebody who he wasn't offending. You are the ones who put this offensive language out here in the public. It wasn't like he told a gay person he called them a gay slur. He didn't call DeMaurice Smith, a black man, any of those things to his face. None of these things would have been known if the NFL hadn't did what? Same thing as they did with the Deflategate with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Had they not started leaking documents to reporters to have this stuff put in newspapers, we wouldn't know any of this. Which means what? You wanted him gone. I don't know why you wanted him gone, but you wanted him gone. And to be honest, I'm more intrigued now than ever what was in those other emails. Because I almost believe you want him to be the fall guy for why you won't show any more of those emails. You want him to be the one to say, hey, we putting our foot down. We not tolerating this. We saw somebody who was speaking bad through emails. We got him out of here. But hey, let us see who else he was talking to. Because you have to understand, if he was talking to Bruce Allen that way, somebody else was talking to Bruce Allen that way, and Bruce Allen was talking to other people that way, because how do we know that? This was a conversation that lasted for 7 years. So if it lasted for 7 years, there has to be back and forth. But they wouldn't even give us the back and forth Bruce Allen had with him. And you know why? Because they were calling into question who Bruce Allen is and who Bruce Allen was in contact with. And now we would have to find out the conversations Bruce Allen was having with people. So they don't even let us know how Bruce Allen responded to what Jon Gruden said, which really had me ticked off. So Gruden was hired for a second stint as the head coach of the Raiders franchise, which includes coaching now defensive lineman Carl Nassib, the first active NFL player to publicly declare that he is gay. Now, again, this is a player who has not come out and said what? You haven't heard him ever say, hey, Jon Gruden doesn't like gay people. I feel like I'm not being treated fairly here. See, none of the players he's coached have ever come out and said, I don't feel like he's treating me fairly because of the color of my skin or my sexual orientation. So, since none of his players are saying that, then again, it makes me believe what? The homophobic language he was using is probably the same. He was using it probably in the same manner that all of us use it in. Now, do we need to do a better job of not using that language because it is offensive? Sure we do. But it had been normal for so long. So you grew up in a culture where it was normal, and now what you want to do is say, hey, now it's not normal. And what you did was you went and got him in a spot where the language was still normal almost. In 2010, 2011, we were still using that word without losing our jobs, to be honest with you. But again, this is how I told you. This is how the Gynocracy and the feminist movement and the Me Too movement, this is how they've gotten you now. What they'll do is get you for what you was doing in the 80s when things were legal or that was the way of the world. And then they'll bring you up on charges now when we don't live in that type of world anymore. But now they want to punish you as if you did it in this type of world where you have the knowledge not to do it, that it's not okay anymore. See, not to say We got smoke alarms going off in here. Yo, sorry about that. Somebody in the building smoking, I guess. Definitely smell like marijuana in here now. I know I don't smoke, but let's get back to this. But again, like I said, you end up having a point where that language was it was cool for us using that language back then. And again, I don't want to get to a point where you want to say it's okay or you're justifying anything, but we do have to understand there was a point in time when that was just the way we talked to each other. That F word was used when you wanted to call a man soft or weak. That's it. Had nothing to do with being a homophobic slur at that point. But what you have done is crucified him for it at this point. So the league said last week that it shared emails with the Raiders in which Gruden made derogatory comments. Gruden told ESPN on Sunday that the league was reviewing emails in which he criticized Goodell and explained that he had been upset about team owners' lockout of the players in 2011 when some of the emails were written. Gruden said in that interview that he had used an expletive to refer to Goodell and that he did so because he disapproved of Goodell's emphasis on safety, which he believed was scaring parents into steering their sons away from football, which we already talked about, which is true. He's changed the game. A lot of people think it's for the better. But again, he's doing it for the better now to satisfy who? He has all the scoring, no physicality really in the game to satisfy who? Women can follow the game better. That's also what's going on here. They can follow the game better when it's just touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. They don't have to understand the nuances of the game at that point. Now, Gruden's behavior was not limited to 2011. Gruden exchanged emails with Allen and other men that included photos of women wearing only bikini bottoms, including one photo of two Washington team cheerleaders. So again, because this was being sent to Jon Gruden and they were sending him topless photos of Washington football cheerleaders, that means what? That it got to really be some dirty stuff going on that Washington side. But you don't really hear them saying anybody is going to be held accountable. In fact, the NFL came out and said, what this week? All that we saw is all that we getting. And they not opening up no more of those emails. So Gruden also criticized the second black president, Barack Obama, during his re-election campaign in 2012, as well as then Vice President Joe Biden, who Gruden called a nervous, clueless pussy. He used similar words to describe Goodell and DeMaurice Smith. Now, he told you about Sleepy Joe 9 years ago. He told you he was clueless then. Hey, I already told you my thoughts on Joe. But people saw it back then. Now, is his language aggressive? Sure it is. But that's just the way men talk to men. And that shouldn't be a woman's right to come and try and legislate how we communicate with each other. That's our language with each other. Stop trying to change that. If it makes you uncomfortable the way we talk to each other, then just don't be around when we communicate with each other. That's all. So, with that, Monday evening, Gruden had to resign. Now, they also went on to state privately Allen and Gruden appeared to have few boundaries in expressing homophobic and transphobic language. In one email from 2015 that includes Dross, McVeigh, and others, Gruden crudely asked Allen to tell Brian Glazer, whose family owns the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where Gruden coached until 2008, to perform oral sex on him. Allen said Glazer would take you up on that offer. So again, that's the way men talk to each other. I know it can be aggressive and it can be offensive to women who are around, but again, men don't jump in when women are conversing with each other, calling each other female dogs and all type of other language. That's how you communicate with each other, and that's fine. When you laughing and male bashing and keying and doing all of this, is it irritating when we around listening to that? It sure is. What do most men do? They leave. Why do you think most men don't show up to baby showers? They don't want to be around it. Why do you think most men don't want a bachelorette party and bachelor party mixed in together? They don't want to be around it. When women get together, it is very annoying and irritating. It's like hearing that smoke alarm that just went off, or hearing chalk or nails go against the chalkboard. It can be irritating at times. Allen and Gruden also mocked Caitlyn Jenner, who received an award from ESPN in 2015 after she transitioned. In an email from 2015, Allen and Gruden criticized the congressional bill that aimed to force the Washington franchise to change its name. Again, using a vulgar term, Gruden took aim at Goodell and his staff, even though the commissioner had initially defended the team's right to keep the name. In 2017, Droz shared with the group a sexist meme of a female referee, to which Gruden replied, "Nice job, Roger." That same year, Gruden was sent a link to an article about NFL players calling on Goodell to support their efforts promoting racial equality and criminal justice reform. Gruden had advice for Goodell. He needs to hide in his concussion protocol, Tenney wrote. Now, to some people, this was rude. Now, I don't know what he said about Caitlyn Jenner. They didn't release that. They just said he made a statement about it. So, see, for me, when you say transphobe or homophobic, I didn't hear him direct any of these things at the gay community or the trans community. What they did was say he said something about Caitlyn Jenner, but they didn't mention what he said about Caitlyn Jenner. But you know, the NFL, they have a funny way of doing things. They really do. Because who do we have performing this year at the Super Bowl? Dr. Dre, a man who we know has beaten 2 women unconscious. But you know, they're worried about feminism at this point and satisfying women. But because he donates now to certain charities and organizations, Dr. Dre has been forgiven. Eminem, to rehab his image, they literally had to set up a performance with him and Elton John, and to have Elton John put his arms around him and embrace him in. It's performing at the Super Bowl halftime show. But they're worried about their image and homophobia and all of these things, misogynistic, pigs, and all of this. Snoop. We don't need to say no more after that. Even Mary J. And I know y'all thinking Mary J ain't did nothing wrong, and we'll deal with her at a later time. That I promise you. But look at the world we live in. We live in a society where it's controlled by gynocentric thoughts. Women are allowed to move with complete autonomy in this country. They have feminized the country at this point. They're no longer trying. This is the world we live in. Marriage laws benefit who? Divorce benefits who? Child support benefits who? I had a woman literally today on my timeline who stated, yes, I'm unemployed. Yes, I don't have a degree. Yes, my husband is the better parent. But I would never give my children to him because how am I going to eat then? This ain't about who the better parent is anymore. The child support laws benefit who? Women. Why is that? Because they don't want you to be the head of your household. They don't want you to be the king of your tribe. They want to be the kings of the tribe. The government is the king of the tribe, and the woman is the queen of the tribe. That's the way this world works at this point. Having a child and living off the system, that benefits who? Exactly. See, everything is fair game in this world. Like I said, and it's what Dave Chappelle was talking about with the baby. He could murder somebody and be rehabilitated and be brought back into society and accepted. He can be ingratiated back in. He says all heterosexual men stand up and excluded gay people, and that was a bridge too far. That was a bridge too far for them. He could call, they could say he did all of these racist things to DeMaurice Smith. He still coached Sunday. It wasn't until Monday when they released him using the F word and saying that he had disparaging remarks about the trans community and the gay community that he was forced to resign. He had to walk away at that point. It wasn't until then. You just have to understand, once you offend a woman, you have to understand this. We saw a man, Dante Stallworth, killed a person and was accepted back into the NFL to play. Leonard Little killed a baby and was accepted back into the NFL to play. Ray Rice hit his wife, apologized for it, has been a stand-up dude in the community before then and after then. His wife forgave him. They went to counseling, all of that. He did that, and what happened? His ass is gone, never to be seen again. You just need to understand now, man, what world you living in. But again, everything is fair game until you offend a woman and the feminist movement or her little brother, the LGBTQ community. Once you have offended them, you must then be canceled. If you offend any of those two, you cannot be rehabilitated. You just cannot be. Sorry. And see, it goes to when I knew we was headed this way when I saw black women cancel Chuck D. And all Chuck D stated was this: abused in his youth and addict as an adult, Ike Turner served 18 months in prison. Rick James did similar time. Ike came out a changed, positive human being. How long should R. Kelly spend in prison? And does a USA system give a man a chance for a man to change his world around? And you know what black women said? He's twisting logic into a pretzel to argue for the rehabilitation of an unrepentant child rapist. Not even what he said. But they can't comprehend. The majority of them can't comprehend. It just is what it is. The most educated group of people in this country cannot comprehend. You can ask questions and start conversations, and they talking about stuff you hadn't even said. Then you have to sit down and get the bouncing red ball like we hooked on phonics to somebody who has a master's degree and say, hey, yo, hey, you know, I actually said this right here. Wait, what do you mean? You can't comprehend what the hell is going on here. But you got to get the little bouncing red ball to have conversations with him at this point. Why isn't he focused on repairing the trauma inflicted on the black victims assaulted by R. Kelly? Why don't they matter? This is toxic, anti-black, and exhausting. But you see, none of these women talk about that sister and that woman and that mother of his who sexually abused him and his brother, which led to all of this. And see, this is again when I tell you, they are allowed to do what they do and then fall on the mercy of the court and the world and cry and say, hey, I'm sorry. They want to walk up to the front and sing their song, come to Jesus while you have time. They want to hold hands right during devotion. You got the deacon sitting over here with the 100 keys in his pocket and the change from the pop machine, and they all just humming away, man. And she just fall out crying, and they tell her what? It's okay, sister. It's okay. God gonna forgive you. See, she can be forgiven. She can be forgiven. I suggest not tagging people who have been harassed, abused in posts about harassment and abuse. Ask yourself, what can you do personally without their help to end harassment and abuse? Again, we're having a conversation about something the man didn't say. I hope people with kids are watching these people defending R. Kelly and act accordingly. I would even start asking family and friends their opinions and act accordingly from that point. And again, all the man said was, how long should R. Kelly spend in prison? And does a USA system give a man a chance for a man to change his world around? This is the same man who gave you Fight the Power. Chuck has been on the side of right damn near 95% of the time. And this is what he gets. And you know why he gets this? Because he doesn't agree. These heifers want a monolith. That's what they want. They want a monolith at this point. They don't want you to be able to say or do anything that is done to them. You must be canceled. Now, when they do unto you, they have excuses. It's again, 80% of divorces are filed by who? Once you cheat, what do? They're usually the ones to check out. Now, when they cheat, what do they tell you? You wasn't spending enough time at home. Sexually, you're not satisfying me. A man can never get away with those excuses. Hey, you ain't spending enough time at home. Sexually, you ain't satisfying me. So that's why I ventured out. We venture out, we're just dogs. They venture out, it's because, you know, we different. Emotionally, we got to move a certain way and feel a certain way. So that's why usually when a woman step out, she steps out. Cool. What indication do you have that R. Kelly wants to change? There has been no remorse. What there has been is decades of abusing black girls, women, and boys. Let's remember that Aaliyah was 15, he was 17 when she was impregnated, and they were married. Where's the accountability? You're right. Where is her mother and father's accountability? But on top of that, all Chuck asked was, how long should he spend in prison? Didn't say the man should get out or any of that. But they can't comprehend, man. They cannot comprehend. This is the world you are living in right now. And see, I knew when the black women crucified Chuck and they grabbed their black savage simp brigade. They grabbed the black savage simp brigade to almost come to her defense just for asking, can he be rehabilitated? And again, it is a logical question. Because the next point I make is, if a man can't be rehabilitated, then you might as well kill him. There's no need to put him in jail and waste taxpayers' money. If we are not rehabilitating them, why are they in jail? But you know why? See, when it's their snotty nosed sons out here raping women and shooting up the community and murdering all of these children out here, what do they tell you? They fall on the mercy of the courtroom. Please, judge, my baby a good kid. He grew up bad, though. He ain't have no father, no male role model. And like I always tell you, it's always our fault. Every time it goes bad. I've had women, I made a post about the woman with the 5 boys. And in that post, I made the caption, what? The second this goes wrong, she will not say, look at what we did. She will say what? His father was not around. You will take the blame for that. And with that caption, guess what I had women doing? Goals. Goals, 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 goals. This is goals. 5 children, multiple baby fathers. This is goals. But she can be a lawyer. See, for them, I keep telling you, it's all about the bag for these chicks, man. That's basically what it is. It's all about the bag at the end of the day for these women. But again, like I said, it was a logical question that Chuck asked. The next thing you have to ask is what? According to these black women, would Malcolm X, would Malcolm Little have been allowed to evolve into Malcolm X in this climate? Would he have been forgiven for being a pimp and sleeping with those white women by black women? Would we have accepted him back in? Not these women. Not at all. El Hajj, Malik Shabazz would not have existed in this climate. They would not have allowed him to be rehabilitated. There's no chance for freedom of thought in this climate. The Gynocracy rules with an iron fist, and they have no forgiveness unless they are the one doing the damage. They are moving in a direction of having a monolith, which is why I talk about men being in the silent generation. But while we're screaming about our feelings and all of that, and they're telling you that all of these men are terrible and they can't be rehabilitated, you must ask yourself this one thing: while they're taking everyone else's, all men's rights, they're trying to violate and take them away. You must ask yourself this one question. They have all of this venom for us in terms of what we say to women and us not agreeing with how they move. Now, do they have the right to be upset when it's men putting their hands on a woman? They sure do. They definitely do have the right to be upset with that. So I won't even excuse that behavior. But they have a lot of venom for men who don't agree with what they say. They have a lot of venom for men who say, "Hey, I want my woman to be 150 pounds, not 200. You fat shaming. I want my woman to be a little soft and nurturing. I don't want her to have the testosterone that I have. Oh, you just weak. You ain't strong." If you speak against them, they want to cancel you. But I want to know, why haven't they canceled the women who have murdered 50 million unborn babies? This is your boy, the Hood Nerd. I'm out.